The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Lovin' baseball when we were 12 and innocent. This is the 67th edition of the show, and my guest is a very passionate baseball fan from the Bronx. Jerry Plukett, welcome to Comfortably Zoned.
Thanks, Ralph. Glad to be here.
Good to have you. How did baseball come into your life? The reason I picked age 12 was passion generally meets intellect at that age. And if you're into baseball, at age 12, you're just starting to be a lifetime fan. And I know you are. And I want to know how it got started at age 12 for you. What was it like? Who took you to games? Where did you go? I'll bet you went to Yankee Stadium, just to guess.
No, you're right. It probably happened earlier than that. So roughly about 1966, 67. I was 5, 6 years old and started collecting baseball cards. And I remember I got a Joe Pepitone card. And, didn't know who he was, and a friend of mine who was a couple years older said he's really good, and so that's kind of where the passion started, and I really got into it in 1969 when the Mets first time they had a winning record, and they won the I remember the middle of the year they were Tom Seaver had almost the I call it the Jimmy Qualls game. It was 2 hours away.
I remember that very well. Broke up that perfect game.
Yeah, and then they kind of staggered into August, and then all of a sudden they just got in a hot streak. I think they won. I want to say 41 of their last 52 games. I think in mid-August they were probably 8 or 9 games behind the Cubs, and then they won their juggernaut the rest of the year, and then they. Even today, I'll go on YouTube and you type in September 24th, 1969, and you have Lindsey Nelson, doing the call where Gary Gentry's pitching the game and throws double play ball to Bud Harrelson, to Ken Boswell, to Don Clendenin, and they clinched the Eastern Division, and then from there they beat the Braves 3-0, and then they took the Orioles in 5.
Well, just in your chatting, you mentioned 2 people that are very near and dear to my heart. One is Clendenin, of course, because without him, they would not have won. That was a late season acquisition, and it was just he put it together. But Joe Pepitone, I'll divert from Mets talk for a second. Joe Pepitone, if you'll recall, hit 2 home runs in the doubleheader. It must have been 1972. And it was the last days that my grandfather, who was responsible for my passion and whose death I'm still mourning all these years later, his last days. And I called him from California, where I had relocated after getting out of the Air Force. And he was so thrilled with that doubleheader win that Pepitone hit home runs in both games. So he's near and dear to my heart, and that's how baseball is. One memory elicits another memory, and wow, you were lucky enough to be a kid at that age, at that time. How has baseball changed for you since those days? What's good in change and what's bad in change for you personally?
I'll start with the bad first. I think just the cost of the game. And I mean, that's just a factor of you're paying the players, and which I don't have an issue paying the players, but just it's gotten cost prohibitive to go to a game. My favorite memory was this. I remember July 4th, 1972. The Mets were playing the Padres in doubleheader, and Tom Seaver pitched the first game. I call it the Leron Lee game. He had a no hitter going in the ninth inning. I mean, he had like 4 walks that day, but he gave a single Leron Lee with like 1 out in the ninth inning. But I remember that day I went with my Little League coach, and my mom gave me $5, and that $5 got me not only the game ticket, but 2 hot dogs and it was either Coke or Pepsi. I forget what the Mets, who the Mets vendor was at those days. So that's probably the bad part. I think the good part is really more the athleticism. It's the players were great, back in the 60s or 70s, but just the athleticism now, because I think Pete Rose was the first guy. I think he trained year round, and you didn't really have that. I mean, you have guys like Yogi Berra. When you see old interviews or press clippings they had, what they used to have to do is get a job in the off season, and now it's you don't have to do that. With the amount of money you make, you can train year round, and you almost have to be competitive. So I'd say probably the one thing that's changed between, let's say, the late 60s, early 70s versus today is just the athleticism. Another thing I don't like is just back to the days, even through the in the 80s, where when the Mets won in '86, you had pitch complete games, and it's the bullpen was a factor, but not what it is now. And I think it was Tony La Russa, when he started managing the A's in like '86, '87. That's where he went to. You never had what you called a setup guy. Back in the day, it's all of a sudden. And that's kind of like the last 30 years where it's, used to be able to go in with like a 9-person pitching staff. And now, most teams now have like 11 or 12 guys because you have to. Otherwise, you're going to burn the bullpen out.
And what do you like about the game that you didn't like then? What changed for so much of the athleticism? Yes. But paying big bucks, there's got to be something that draws people to pay big bucks. What is it for you?
For me, it's so much you can watch the game any time now. Like when I was a kid, you had the Yankees were on Channel 11 and the Mets were on Channel 9, and and then you had Kurt Gowdy do the game of the week on NBC on Saturdays, and that's where you got to see other games. Now, literally, you can watch a game 7 days a week. Whether it be on ESPN. The old days were even Turner had the Atlanta Braves. You could watch them all the time, and that's the part that makes it nice for me now that I can watch a game anytime. Whereas back when I was a kid, you couldn't do that.
Okay. How has baseball affected your life? Did you work in it? Did you aspire to work in it? You got the voice for radio. I want to tell you that. I wonder if you ever got into that.
No, I never did. Never had the opportunity. But I'm like any kid. I wanted to be I wanted to be Tommy Agee's replacement in center field for the Mets. And you reach an age where it's like it's probably, for me it was like 15, and it's like it's not going to happen. So you better you better focus on something else. And so, but no, I've always been a big fan. And even even for me, like I stopped playing when I was like 17, and then I then dropped it for a number of years, and then all of a sudden 45, the town we live in now, they had an ad for a over 35 softball league. So I'd say, hey, why not? And so I did that for like 8 or 9 years till the league disbanded. But it took about a year to get the skills back. But things were catching balls over your head. It's playing second base and running back, or playing center field and running back. Even at the age of 50, those you can get those skills back.
Yeah, and it's a nice mellow atmosphere. It's not like football, George Carlin used to say.
I play. I run an ice hockey game on Friday nights in Port Washington, and there it can get a little heated. Where guys accidentally bump into each other, and some guys have dropped the mitts and everything like that. But yeah, that doesn't really happen in baseball. Yes, I mean in a regular baseball game where guys get pushed back, that can happen. But in a I call it a gentleman's softball league. You don't have stuff like that.
Right. And you put the glove on. You oil the glove at age 50. That's kind of nice. It's a little bit of having the kid not dying in you. Keeping that little boy alive. Like I say, breaking in a glove for some people, you break in a glove, you're an old man, and you think a game could break out at any time. You got to be prepared.
Oh yeah, no, I bought a new glove, and I did it the old way I used to, just to play with it, and that's how. That's the best way to break a glove in. Where I've tried other gloves in the past where I've oiled it, and it just ends up ruining the glove.
Yeah, well, or whatever way you choose to break it in, it's fun doing. You're a delight. I hear the passion in your voice. What do you like about the rule changes, and what don't you like?
I'm not crazy about some of the rule changes. Like the one where you have you go to extra innings and they automatically put a runner on second base. That I don't like.
Yeah.
I think with
no one does.
Yeah, I never liked the shift. My favorite story was, this is the one thing that kind of drove me nuts the last 5-6 years was. I remember a game from 1971. Gil Hodges last year alive, and they were playing the Giants at Shea, and he put the shift on against Willie McCovey. And Willie McCovey wasn't exactly Lou Brock or Ricky Henderson or Maury Wills in terms of speed. But what Willie did is just I forget who was pitching that night, but he bumped the ball down the third baseline, and he legged that a single. And what would drive me nuts the last 5-6 years before they got rid of the rule for the shift was that I'd look at some of these guys, and some of these guys were fast. It's like, just drop a bunt down the third baseline. That's how you're gonna beat the shift. And I remember the classic case. The other one was the 2009 World Series where remember Johnny Damon was on first base for the Yankees, and they were playing the Phillies in the series, and they had shifted. And all of a sudden, I forget where the ball went, but all of a sudden, Johnny Damon got to second base. There's nobody covering third. He said, "I'm going," and it was bad play by the Phillies, and he ended up in third base. And there were so many ways that you can combat the shift, but for whatever reason, they get it's part of this whole analytics thing, and the analytics would drive me crazy. Where I know when Billy Martin managed, would be the he was probably the best manager for 1 or 2 years on any team he ever managed, but whether it be for the Twins, the Yankees, the A's, he wasn't an analytics guy. I mean, he knew his stuff. It worked for him for years, and he just did that. You didn't need these analytics and everything like that. Sometimes you just have to go with your gut.
Good answer to that. That's how the game has changed the most, in my view, is strict analytics. You don't have a manager that can look into a player's eyes before the game and say, maybe I ought to play somebody else that day. The hunches. Casey Stengel is absolutely turning over in his grave. Speaking of Casey Stengel, it just hit me. He was the inventor of the pre-spring training instructional league, where he'd bring guys in. And the reason I thought of that is what's being taught in the minors these days. teams are looking for power, power, and power. So you don't get situational hitting being taught. And I think that's killing the game. Bunting down the third base line for a hit when they're playing it, that's situational hitting.
Yeah.
And then you could look at the devil's advocate. You put a guy on like McCovey on first. Does it really help you? You know, because McCovey is the big power guy too.
Yeah.
So, and that's again what makes baseball great is that if you do this, you get that. If you do that, you get this. You know what I hate? And I've talked to Ron Blumberg on this, on my podcast. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful guy.
I've heard great things about him.
And he does well in promoting the game, this, that, and the other thing. I really think the DH hurt the game more than anything else, and I could give you the Dick Stewart response in advance. You gotta play the field. I mean, when I'm a kid, to balance a lineup, you got a big bull who could hit the ball, but he can't catch a fly. He can't catch a cold. So how much is it important to have someone who plays the game play the game? And I understand the Cepedas and the original DHs that extended their careers, and it added something, but it took away more than it added. I mean, that's
no. I mean, there were some good hitting pitchers. I remember even one game I was watching.
Turley.
Bob Turley. But I remember I was watching a game with the Mets and Cardinals. It was probably like maybe 1970, 71. But Red Candace was managing the Cardinals at the time, and he did a pinch hitter. And this is not one of those things where it was like the 18th inning where he needed to bring somebody in. It was like, I want to say it was like 7th or 8th inning. He had Bob Gibson come in to pinch hit, and he walked. Man, he was a great athlete. He played for I think he played for the Globetrotters.
Globetrotter. Yeah.
He walked. And he was
as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and he had power too. He could hit the ball over the fence. I remember Tom Seaver's first home run in 1970, and he had 1 year where he had like 3 home runs, and then I think Warren Spahn, I think he's got the record. I think he's got like 37 home runs, and and Mel Stottlemyre, I think there's one game from like 1965. He went 5 for 5, but back in those days you had pitchers that not only great pitchers, great athletes, and they could hit. I mean, one of my second favorite pitchers, like other than Tom Seaver, is Sandy Koufax, and Sandy couldn't hit to worth a dime, but great athlete, and there were other pitchers that could hit, and it also neutralized the game too, because when you had pitchers hitting, it also when they had the brush back, there's a way to get back at pitchers who were brushing back, and now you don't have that opportunity anymore.
Right. You mentioned Sandy, I'm thinking, and you mentioned Gibson before as a great basketball player in his day. Well, not a great basketball, but you make the Harlem Globetrotters, you're a damn good basketball player. Yeah. Sandy got a scholarship to Cincinnati, and he was going to play in the backcourt with Oscar Robertson. He was a very, very good basketball player. Lafayette High School, Brooklyn, New York. New York. So nice, they named it twice.
Yeah. There's an author, Jane Levy. She did a unsanitized version of Sandy, and she had one time when I think Sandy was probably a junior or senior in high school, but I think he played in a pickup game against the Knicks, and allegedly he slam dunked over Harry Gallatin at the Knicks. You know, he was that good an athlete and that good of a basketball player.
Oh, Harry the Horse Gallatin, one of the greatest Knicks ever. And when I was growing up, they had, before the championship years, they had some very dry years. So,
oh yeah.
I call them the Charlie Tyree years, the Paul Hogue years. But we'll get into that in another podcast.
Sure.
Hey, thanks for being a guest. This was nice.
Ralph, I appreciate it. Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to appear, and it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, me too. And I'll have you on again because you're interesting and you have opinions without being opinionated. And I like that.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Jerry.
Great. All right, well. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thanks
for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Lovin' baseball when we were 12 and innocent. Adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.